I think you know what today is. 100 subscribers! Holy crap. Thank you so much. 100 subscribers. Probably not a big deal to a lot of YouTubers. Kind of a big deal to me. I'm sure it was a big deal to every YouTuber at one point. But this is great. Let's head into the studio and get into today's content. 100 subscribers. $100. You want it? Stick around to the end and I'll tell you exactly how. You know what we're gonna do today? Seriously, I think 100 subscribers is pretty cool. I think we're above that right about now. But I just wanted to do a little something to show my appreciation. And I'm pretty sure there's one video that really got me there. This video, the Blender animation reel, inspired by Ian Hubert. So first of all, I want to thank Ian because this wouldn't have been possible without him. If you're there, Ian, thanks. Also, it was his tutorials that got me into Blender in the first place. And now I use Blender almost every single day. So thanks for that because it's an awesome tool. So what I thought we'd do is I might react to this animation reel that I made. There's some really good parts and there's some really janky parts. So I'm going to talk about how I could have fixed it. All right, let's watch. All right, this first scene, one of my favorites. I think it's a really strong opening to the whole collection here. This background building, maybe like the second or third asset I completely modeled. Of course, that texture comes from textures.com, our favorite resource. But there's a lot of tutorials combined into these first sequence of shots. This one was Ian's building modeling tutorial, along with this building right here. Same kind of workflow adapted here. The flickering neon in the background, of course, the Orabesh font. That's another Ian tutorial. The city in the background, another one of his. And then even, at the very, very beginning, it's only in it for a couple of frames, but the wet ground, of course we know cinematically that wet grounds always look better, but being able to do that was, I think one of his tutorials. I don't know. But I think the reflections look great. They're really reflecting the HDR in the background, which is definitely matching the background of the rest of the scene that we can see. The panda was just a decal that I had added to that existing building. These white buildings, those are, what are they called? Those are Kitbash assets. They work really, really well. I don't even mind paying for them because I think it's really worth the money. They definitely work for background and middle ground assets, and only require a little bit of tweaking and additions for foreground assets. The camera movement itself is kind of funny. I think it helps add to the realism of the scene, but also, what the hell would we have been using to replicate this camera movement? A crane on a really windy day. That I think this was the first time I played with the noise modifier for the camera movement, which is amazing. But kind of funny when you think about it and try to break that down. All right, so that little shot right there, a couple seconds. All of these assets were from Ian's city modeling tutorial. I think it's just a shot of the Chicago skyline that's been mapped onto all of these faces. But there was definitely, this was the very first, maybe the second thing I had ever done in Blender. I hadn't done the donut yet up to this point. So I was having some issues with the color of the fog, really changing the color of the buildings, and not getting the sky to move in the same way that I had the background move. In retrospect, the sky shouldn't move at all, right? It's not as if the sky moves. But again, you know, the camera movement was meant to emulate a helicopter shot, which I wanted to make sure that we could hear the helicopter, but you can't quite hear it. I'm not great at sound design. I'm trying to get better because that's something that I really care about. Let's keep watching. All right. So this part of the shot, again, really great. Not too bad to do. Flickering neon again, right here from Ian's tutorial. The whole scene probably has this same asset duplicated probably 10 times. You know, different orientations and different scales. The addition of the blinking beacons to the buildings, not hard to do at all. I think it adds a lot of realism, but not when they show up on the bottom of your buildings over here. That's kind of strange. Also, the perceived street level apparently has nothing going on, and then the images projected onto the shapes here are, of course, stretched across the top faces. If I were to go in and redo this, I would definitely remap the tops of these buildings. Maybe this one's okay. We can kind of think, oh, that's just a reflection. But these ones here are very clearly just stretched textures. So I would definitely fix that. Yeah, and then playing with the camera move and the camera focus, I think helps draw the attention to the neon while hopefully, you know, blurring out the things which obviously don't hold up under scrutiny. But then also the image texture itself on the main building right here is a little bit low res. So I would, you know, probably try to find a better image or take it myself. Oh boy, the moths. So I think there's, you know, maybe a couple good things about this, but in general, it's my least favorite scene. First thing I notice is the terrible sound of the moths. Again, not great at sound design, and I think it's a slowed down but pitched up helicopter, probably the same helicopter sound that I tried to get to come across in the previous scene, which I messed the same sound asset up twice, so there we go. I think the lamp turned out really well. I'm happy with that. The lens flare doesn't really make sense in this context, but that was added in post in After Effects. The moths themselves are definitely, you know, blocky and too polygonal. If I were to, you know, do this again, I would probably add a moth texture to them, you know, a bit of translucency. The grass, at this point, I hadn't found, you know, the awesome grass essentials. So I just modeled all of those, you know, off of reference. And the processing of this render was super slow because I did not model these things efficiently. They're really, really high poly. They don't really move. You know, I mean, I think maybe a little bit of wiggle might have been nice. But I think if I were to redo this, I would probably add either, you know, those grass essential assets, or probably just a series of stacked images that kind of might help. And then also the movement of the moths is kind of tough. They kind of float in this disc just above the light rather than spherically around the light. They do love the lamp. I can move the lamp and they'll follow it. And I'm not sure how to change the vertical spread of each of those moths. I think I would probably just have multiple particle systems going to different empties around the light rather than just one collection going to one target. All right, Wigglebutt ducks. This one was a lot of fun. I think it's the same grass asset from the previous scene. I think the ducks turned out okay. The water is fine. The fog, no problem. I think that was the first time I had done volumetrics. I had always worked with mist, with a mist pass or a Z depth. But this was the first time I had done volumetric fog, and I like that. In this sense, though, this is really kind of just 3D modeling 101. Never show your horizon. And at this point, that's just the edge of the water sim. So, yeah, I would mask that in the future. Another thing that we see, camera movement, again, great. That noise modifier has really upped my game. But the movement of the ducks themselves have not been linearly interpolated. It's going through the standard the standard curve movement where it speeds up and then slows down. Usually I'll add a second or two to all of my renders so I can kind of clip that out, but it's such an easy fix just to interpolate the movement to linear that there's really no excuse for me not having done that here. All right, this one is not an Ian tutorial. And this one's definitely my least favorite. I had a lot of issues with this. I don't think that the speed of the bullet matches the speed of the sound. I spent a few days really on this clump of glass shards right here, trying to get them to scatter the way that the rest of them did. But I could never get it to work. And at this point, I would probably have to go through the entire tutorial all again, because I didn't feel like that I leveled up with this particular tutorial. This one here, the polished gold bullet, that was kind of just silly on my end. And I don't even know what it's reflecting. I don't think I had this many lights in the scene. But doing the destruction sim and the shattering of the glass and the smoke sim, that was good practice for me. But I couldn't get all of these elements to come together in a way that I was happy with. All right, so this scene here, this first camera movement I think is great. The building assets, those are from Kit Bash. The tree in the background, that was the first tree I had ever modeled. Really happy with it, but it's ultra high poly, so it took a really long time to render. I think the streets are definitely too clean to reflect a march or protest kind of scene. And this is probably as close as we can get to the crowd without the collection falling apart, because as soon as we zoom in with the next camera move, it completely falls apart. We can see the duplicated assets. It's too close. So the very quickly modeled crowd in the background, that's what it needs to be, the background, not the focus. I got the shape keys all wrong. They're moving in unison, and I still can't quite get, believable human movement. And that's just something that I need to practice. Yeah, right here. Again, streets are too clean. The building assets are fine. The tree in the foreground. I probably should have just focused on a leaf and had everything blur in the background. But yeah, the movement of the people really falls apart. Definitely from the back. I mean, they're all the exact same size and height. But the arms really warp when they're kind of swinging their arms as they walk. But right here, the overhead shot, I'm really happy with this. Of course, I would probably populate the sidewalks a bit more, but the road looks great, and I think the crowd looks great from overhead. It's not so apparent that there's 5 or 6 assets that have been duplicated 100 times each. So this is probably the best distance from which to view this particular crowd. If I were to do it again, I would do it better so I could get closer. Oh yeah, this one's my favorite one. Definitely the most realistic for a couple reasons. One, I think that because the lighting is so even and diffuse, it's definitely representative of an overcast day, which is kind of reflected in the lack of detail in the sky. I think that's just I don't even think it's an HDR. I think I just used a solid color to produce the light. I don't remember. I would have to open the file again. But the building right here in the background, just another textures.com quick projection mapping. There's a little bit of stretching right there on that edge, and there's a little bit of stretching right here on that face. But otherwise, I was really happy with the way that this turned out. I can't remember if these signs were part of the original image or something that I kind of slapped on afterwards. The background here, of course, there's some issues with it. The parapet gets kind of impossibly cut off. But I don't even think I did any pushing or pulling of the. I think it's just a flat image in the background here. The street and parking lot, I think that's another Kit Bash asset, as well as the lamppost. I would probably replace this texture here. I think that's the default texture that comes with this lamppost and doesn't work well at this distance. So I would probably replace that. These little electrical boxes, those are Kit Bash assets as well. And then the movement of the wacky inflatable arm flailing tube man. I was really happy with that. There's some issues with the ends of the arms and the ends of the head where maybe the pressure gets too low and they become impossibly thin. But overall, and I think combining it with the sound of them kind of flapping in the wind, I think really helps sell the scene. And I kind of had an issue with these flags overhead. I wanted them to kind of sway back and forth, but I couldn't get them to do that because they were interacting with the wind sim for the characters, and I couldn't at the time. I could probably do it now, but at the time I couldn't figure out how to have a separate wind sim only affect these flags versus these characters right here. But one thing I think is really funny is, even though this is probably the most realistic looking scene, if we go back far enough, nothing's touching the ground here. This lamppost is floating just above. This lamppost is floating just above, and even the characters, they're not quite touching the ground. So that's kind of funny, you know. I don't think we notice it at first, but you know, when you kind of look at it, you know, frame by frame, it's very clear that whoops, they're not touching the ground. But in general, I'm very happy with this scene here. All right, there we go. That was a collection of the very first models and renderings and animations that I had ever done in Blender. I've done a lot of other similar work out of other programs, but I really think that Blender's workflow makes it really easy to make really great looking work. The bar for excellence across the board has been raised because of this program. If you enjoyed those kind of responses, let me know, and I'll perform the academic critique for your work. Remember that critique means discussion, not criticism. So if you would like an academic discussion about your work rather than a technical pick apart of what you could have done better or what you did wrong, let me know and we can maybe compile a video out of that stuff. All right, I know why you're all here. You want this thing. Well, let me tell you exactly how to get it. How to get it, step 1. You must be subscribed to this channel, and you should like this video. Step 2. Leave a comment on this video stating what kind of content you would like to see next. A winner will be chosen completely at random. I will respond to the winning comment and get in contact with you on how to send you your fabulous new prize. All of the information on the contest giveaway is in the description below. This giveaway is not sponsored by YouTube or Amazon, and I am solely responsible for this giveaway. That's all for today. Thanks for watching. Good luck on that giveaway.